What's going on, everybody? Doc from Average Gamer Guys back yet again. More Destiny 2 action. And with a weekly reset, you know what that means. We get a new Nightfall strike, which is what we're jumping into. So first and foremost, just want to say a huge shout out and thanks to everybody that watched the last Nightfall strike walkthrough. Tons of views, so really appreciate that. We're going to jump right into this one. We're doing the Pyramidion, which is on Echo Mesa. We've got Torrent and 0 Hour are our two shifts for this raid. Obviously a new raid or a new strike, new mission that we'll be hopping into. So if you didn't catch the last one, basically doing a full walkthrough. We're going to talk through the differences, talk through some of the things that helped me and my fire team complete this, and then just run you through the whole thing. I'll be speeding through a few areas where pretty self-explanatory, where we're just kind of finishing through the mission, and you'll see a full playthrough. So two biggest changes here. Torrent is essentially allows you your abilities, which includes all of your melee abilities as well as your grenades, as well as I'm playing as a striker here, your shields and all of those abilities. They all recharge faster for this. 0 Hour is the other big significant difference, which essentially means that there are no time pickups for this. You're going to get 22 minutes. You have 22 minutes, and that's all you got. You don't have to worry about jumping through any hoops or rings. You don't have to worry about shooting any anomalies through this one. You're just going to get the full time up front. What that essentially means for this mission, I found, and if you didn't notice right there, I got super lucky with one goblin giving me a legendary and a rare at the same time. But what that essentially means for this mission is that I just seem to find that a lot of the enemies were just harder. So you're getting a lot of more yellow bar, more mid-tier level enemies. Obviously the damage that they're doing is absolutely brutal. I think as of recording this, I'm sitting at right about the 296-ish range. And they're just tearing me up. So it's important to know, obviously you still have the pretty long reset and timer for respawns, but that's really about the only significant things to note. So you're going to have tough enemies, you're going to have 22 minutes to finish, and all of your abilities are going to recharge faster. I do think your supers recharge a little bit faster as well, although that's not nearly as noticeable. I will say I definitely recommend for this playing as a Titan, playing as a striker, and using the grenades, the lightning grenades that stick. I have the ability that has 2 of them. I'm not kidding you. There are going to be parts where you're going to see where I literally throw one, throw the other one, wait maybe like 5 seconds, and throw another one, and that's how fast they recharge, and that's how fast your abilities recharge too. So you're going to see us popping multiple shields. We actually had 2 strikers, I believe, and a hunter for this raid on the fire team, which was a pretty good setup. So that area that I just skipped through right there, sorry I was talking, is one of the areas that I definitely recommend that you take your time. You can run through that. You don't have to kill any of the enemies, but definitely take your time to get through that. Same thing with these. Unlike the campaign or unlike this mission that you played through before, if you run into those at all, they will instantly kill you. So it's that's really my other big tip for this, is to just take your time. You have the full time. You don't have to worry about picking anything up. Power ammo drops like crazy because you're facing so many mid-tier level enemies, yellow bar enemies as I would call them. Take your time, clear the areas out, try to limit your deaths, obviously, but really just take the time to clear everything out. A lot of these areas you have to just clear out anyways. You do have some portions where you have to trigger, you have to stand in the circles and get those going. If you're familiar with this mission, you'll definitely know the pace of it and how it folds out. But definitely there are more enemies, there are a lot tougher enemies, and there are definitely more enemy spawns as well. But as you saw us do right here for this section, essentially all we're doing is clearing out the enemies, trying to be smart. We're using our supers pretty consistently. Like I said, since all of those abilities, melee, shields, all that stuff, since it recovers so quickly, you can feel free, and since you have honestly quite a bit of enemies in each of the areas that you have to clear out. Feel free, use those supers, use them well. That's going to get you to the boss fight pretty quickly. We did do this a couple times. We ended up missing the first run through actually by about a minute. I would suggest that you need around the 7-minute mark for the boss fight, just based on kind of the pacing of it, although it is a boss fight that you can move through pretty quickly. So if you are under 7 minutes, definitely finish it out, try it, because I think if you have the right setup for classes and weapons, you'll definitely be able to fight through it. You see me here again. I can't stress enough, use your power ammo. Power ammo is going to drop super fast. I found that rocket launchers, especially my precision guided one here, was really beneficial. You've got another area where you got to run through and dodge all this stuff. But again, I can't stress enough, just take your time with this one. 22 minutes seems like a long time up until you get to the boss fight, but I'll tell you, we definitely struggled trying to just go quickly and get to the objectives, especially in an area like this where you have to sit in the rings. On a couple of the playthroughs prior to recording this one, we tried to get to those too quickly without clearing out all of the enemies, thinking that we would just be able to trigger them and push through, and that was not the case. I think that's why this one sets up with the additional recharge torrent, giving you the additional recharge on all of your abilities, and as well as giving you full time up front. I think it's designed so that you're going to take your time. You're actually going to clear through, kill a lot of enemies, and get yourself set up. Doing a quick unfast forward here for this section, because honestly this section for us was the one that took the longest. So you have these data lists here that you're going to have to go up to and hack. This area is just chock full of not only, again, tough enemies, but also snipers and captains and things that can really just take you down super quickly. And it seems like you just saw right there that enemies seem to kind of pop up and spawn behind you. Again, we had 2 strikers and a hunter on this class. Definitely a recommendation for the sole fact that you get 2 shields, and I definitely recommend the full barrier shield, as well as, again, work the striker and use those lightning grenades that stick, because they just do massive damage and you can use them very consistently. So take your time with this portion, clear out as much as you can, work forward methodically as a team. I did like our strategy here of 2 guys kind of pushing forward to the point, with me kind of hanging back, continuing to work on the enemies. Definitely a recommendation, definitely a good strategy that we used there. And like I said, I think that portion right here where you're trying to work through it is honestly going to be the area that, if you're not careful, is going to soak up a ton of time. Ironically enough, at that point, once you push through this, you're pretty much at the boss fight. And so it sucks to get to this point. You saw we started it with a pretty good chunk of time, and it still took us a few minutes to work through. But I can tell you, through multiple playthroughs of trying to get our strategy down, we realized that we got to take our time. We got to clear the enemies. Not a ton of respawns or anything like that. Once you clear it, it just becomes a lot easier, and your pace will actually be a lot faster when you consider putting all of it together. So that's definitely a recommendation, and definitely what I would say was our success in this one. I think we ended up finishing with about 3 minutes left, which was a pretty solid move, and a solid strike for us, especially running through it on the first day. So pretty happy with how that set up. So hopping into this boss fight, obviously you saw us, we got into here with about 8 minutes left, so plenty of time, and you should be pretty familiar with this boss fight if you've fought this mission already, obviously, and definitely a recommendation to go through and do that, just so you understand the pacing of everything. Really, the biggest thing that's going to hold you up is breaking these first 2 barriers down that you see us doing here, which takes having to jump into the rings. You can definitely pour on a ton of damage, as you saw right when he spawns in. You also get a pretty good chance in between these ring captures to put some good damage in. But really what you're looking for is use those grenades, as you see us doing right here. Use your power ammo to get him through the shielded portions, and get him to the point where he's just free roaming, because then at that point you really can pour in a lot of the damage. You'll see here again he takes a pretty good bit. I honestly didn't think this Nightfall Strike was honestly too hard once you get a good strategy and you understand kind of the dynamics of it. Additionally, not too bad when you consider the fact that you have these recharging abilities that go super fast. And that really all helps. You should only have to do the circle portion a few times, I think 2, before he'll then go back to the front. And that's really the key here. So you'll see him, he'll come back to the front, and this is when you know that he's going into the free roaming stage, and you really have the chance to just pour a lot of damage in him. I definitely recommend saving some supers, at least 1 or 2 from the team, to get to this point. Because what that's going to allow you to do is, just like I did right here, pour on a ton of damage. Definitely use your grenades willingly and often. And honestly, at this point, you really shouldn't have too much problem. I will definitely say, obviously, you're going to clear the ads prior to this just because you really need to and because you can't do damage to the boss. At this stage though, I would definitely have somebody focusing kind of like I am right here. We're kind of using our supers not specifically only on the boss but definitely also on the ads as well. The harpies do a ton of damage, and with how the enemies spawn, they kind of spawn all over the map. It's pretty easy for them to kind of encircle you. So definitely a recommendation to have 1, maybe even 2 folks of the fire team at least initially focused on the ads as well. And that seems to be a pretty consistent theme with a lot of these boss fights. Obviously this guy can do a ton of damage and he can take you down pretty quickly, but it's the ads in this one and how tough just the standard enemies are that can be a pretty big factor. At this point, you see we've got about 4 minutes left. We've got him down under probably at about a quarter health at this point. Obviously he's doing, as you saw there, a ton of damage. That fire shot's pretty brutal. It can actually go through and affect you through your shield, so that's something to note if you are playing as a Titan. But you see here the team, my fire team, doing a good job trying to clear out these ads, using the supers pretty effectively to do so, just so we give ourselves plenty of time and plenty of space to move around and not die too often to be able to take out the boss. But from here, like I said, power ammo, supers, grenades, you shouldn't have too many issues. Once you see his head blow off, you know he's pretty close, and you also have these random walls that will pop up. And honestly, we finished this one pretty good, I think. Like I said, it took us a couple times. Biggest recommendations always would just be, honestly, just take your time and clear the enemies out. Make that your focus for each of the different areas you come through, and then take your time and just be quick, but also don't rush through kind of the platforming portions, because again, they will instantly kill you and definitely cost you quite a bit of time if your whole team goes down. But 22 full minutes, you see we finished with just under 3, went in with just about 8. So like I said, I think about 5 minutes or so, give or take, is a pretty good setup for you guys to be able to run through this. So quick short video. Hopefully this guide and my comments were helpful for you, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like I said, we've got a ton more Destiny 2 content coming, and a lot more content just on the channel as well. If you're a Halo Wars 2 or a Rocket League fan, we've got a lot of stuff coming through, and that's going to be popping up on the channel as well. So if you haven't already, please do make sure to subscribe. Leave a like and comment down below if there's any other tips you've got for anybody. We love chatting with the community and hear what you guys got to say and what worked for you as well, working through this. So again, hopefully the guide was helpful. I've been Doc from Average Gamer, guys. Again, thank you so very much for watching, spending a few minutes of your day with me, and we'll catch you in the next one.